Welcome back to Next Step Career Corner, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what it looks like to lead, work, grow, and reinvent yourself in a world that's constantly changing. I'm your host, Stephanie Rank, career coach and champion for leaders who are building meaningful careers without losing themselves in the process. Today, I'm joined by someone who embodies exactly that kind of leadership, Wendy Sclafani. Wendy has spent more than 2 decades leading complex clinical teams and hospital operations, helping shape how healthcare organizations grow, innovate, and deliver care. From her early career as a nurse to her executive roles leading clinical operations and business strategy, Wendy has seen the healthcare world from every angle, and she's led through seasons of pressure, transformation, and breakthrough. Whether you're in healthcare or any other industry, if you've ever wondered how to lead with clarity, courage, and compassion, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Thank you, Wendy, so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
So fill us in. Tell us the story of your background.
Well, like you said, I've been a nurse for over 2 decades, almost 29 years already. It's hard to believe that it's that long. I actually went to college to study psychology, found that that was not my path. And someone mentioned nursing to me, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Why not? As coming out of high school, you just don't know. Well, to make it short, I loved it. I went to a diploma associate degree, came out, started working in hospital care right off the boot. And then as my career progressed and as I grew as a nurse, and then my steps into leadership, I continued my education along with that. So I started out floor nursing, moved to the charge nurse, moved to a hospital leadership, to manager, director, and then a vice president role. So it really all stemmed from those first bases of just going to nursing school. And I don't look back. I love being a nurse, and I love what we do for society and the world alone. We can't do it with just doctors. You have to have nurses being there for the patients.
Absolutely. They change everything. I've been hospitalized, had surgeries, different things, and it's always been the nursing team that makes the impact. They're the ones that make the difference.
They are in conjunction with doctors, but nurses are the empathy. Mm-hmm. They hold your hand when you're crying through whatever treatment you have. They're there when you want to talk to your family or have conversations. We're just always there 24/7. You have someone at your bedside that's caring for you.
Yeah.
Making it easier. So it's a vital role in society.
Yeah. And since COVID, we have to appreciate our nursing staff, all our medical staff, but especially the nurses that had to deal with so much. And still to this day, it feels like healthcare is always looking for nurses. Right. So if you're thinking about healthcare, nursing could be a career option for you.
Most definitely.
Okay. So you laid it out, right? You started as a nurse, you moved up, director, manager, director, VP. So what was that transition like? Like what mindset shifts did you have from being direct patient care to people leader?
So it was a little difficult to begin with, right? A new nurse, I'm 23, 24 years old. And all of a sudden, I'm in charge of a floor. So it's kind of scary, right? Like, you're barely knowing how to be an adult, let alone lead other people. So I truly believe that people who move up into charge nurse, managers, like you're innately born with some sort of leadership in you, right? It's sort of like when you were a child. Were you the school teacher or were you the student? When you played grocery store, were you the cashier or were you the customer? So it kind of stems, if you look back at your childhood, there's already leadership skills there. You just don't discover them until you become an adult or even in high school. I feel like high school students, some learn a lot of leadership skills. But for myself, it was really coincidental. I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, got a job at a hospital, and they approached me and said, "We think you're great. You're wonderful with the staff. Can you be a permanent charge nurse?" And that was actually the start of my leadership career. because I became a permanent charge nurse, and I was in that role for like 2-3 years, learning just the floor, how to lead my fellow coworkers. And from there, like, you kind of get bored and you're like, what do I want to do with my life? And I wasn't certain what I wanted to do. And someone else approached me and said, come be a hospital administrator. And it's like a house supervisor. So then I moved to the role of just leading the hospital on all the off shifts. It's a big role. You learn all the ins outs of a hospital. You learn staffing. You learn about how to handle call-ins, traumas, code blues. And through all of this, you're there for the patients. You're there for families, but you're growing and you're developing your skills on how to handle these situations, which all take you to being wonderful in leadership wherever you may go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've had a great journey. I feel like every level of leadership I've had, I've learned something new. You meet new people, you learn how to handle new situations. It's been a wonderful journey.
Yeah, you're always learning. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're not learning, you got to think about that, right? Like, you should always be learning in your role. So was there a moment, because I do think back to when I was a kid, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've always been in that leader role. Was there a moment in your career where you went, I want to be a leader, or I am a leader?
There was. It was when I was the house supervisor. And the first thing is we had an emergency in the emergency department, and I had to close the emergency department. And who does that? Nobody closes it. Like, it was a big event. And it was at that point I feel like I was like, I can do this. I can handle these crises and make us get through it. Like opening a command center, right? You hear of command centers all the time now. For whatever crisis is going on, you have your team, you run it. What you're saying is going. And I feel like that was the integral part for me. I was like, I can handle this. I can be a leader. I can take my team to where I need to be.
That's awesome.
It worked. Like, I just kept pushing forward and believing in myself. That's a big thing, right? You have to believe that you can do it, because there's lots of walls that come up before you accomplish it.
So how has your clinical direct care experience changed your leadership style? Because you're right, like, you had to deal with crisis at the direct patient care. What about now as a leader? Emergencies are a little bit different, wouldn't you say?
They are. So as a leader, right, you want your staff to know that you're there. And since I did spend time at the bedside, I walked in their shoes already. I know what it's like to have the world falling down on you when you're taking care of a patient. So you want to make sure they know that you're there to support them. What do you need? Tell me how I help you. Those are the key things. How do we get you out of this situation that we're in? And a lot of times, especially if you have a patient pass away, it just takes everything out of the nurses.
Yeah.
It is so traumatic, and you just have to support them. You have to give them time to walk off the unit. If we need to debrief, it's all of that combination. But really, you want to just support your team. Yes, you can be writing them up. You can be holding them accountable. But at the end of the day, do they feel that you gave yourself to support them? Did you hear them and did you listen?
Yeah. Yeah, that's super important, especially when, gosh, yeah, it's not like we're dealing with death situations every day in the office, right? So having that compassion for anybody on your team is huge.
Exactly.
But then we get into the corporate stuff. So now you're dealing with not only the clinical needs, but budget constraints and organizational goals. How do you balance all of that?
It's really tough, but in hospital settings, you have a budget season, right? Hospitals give you a budget and you have to figure out how you work through that. And there's processes. If you need to buy equipment, how much is it? Make sure you turn it in time so it can go to capital purchases, which you will meet, do a proposal, and cross your fingers that you get the new equipment that you really want. But because healthcare is so financially based, everyone's responsible. Like, you have to watch your waste. So did you need 10 dressings or did you need 2? And how much supplies do you have on the unit? Do you need all those supplies? Because then you have expirations and it's more waste. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to budget, you're looking at supply, and then you're also looking at the staff. So we can only hire so many people, right? The biggest expense in most companies is labor.
Yeah.
So you really have to weigh, what do you absolutely need? Everybody's aware healthcare is in dire straits right now. Mm-hmm. We're really struggling, and it's hard. It's hard. But when it comes to budget, you have to stick to the plan and have some vision to be able to work around things. So if you can save on one thing in order to get another body into the building, I think that is a win. But it's a lot of just learning as you go. You're not going to know everything when you go into a leadership role. When I started, I had no clue how in detailed budgets actually were until I moved up to manager and director. And then I was like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah. It's funny. One of my soapboxes, I wish my bachelor's and my master's degree had a course about being a manager, not only learning budgets and things like that, but then how to manage people as well, like that balance, because you might be a good nurse, but then when you grow into this leadership role, can you manage the new things that you may not have experienced in as an individual contributor, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you're on the floor, you have your friends who now you're over.
Yes.
And you cannot have bias. You have to hold them to the same accountability as everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And some people are better than it is at others, right? I personally, I consider myself, when I go to work, I just don't have friends.
Yeah, that is an easy way to do it, right?
I don't have any friends at work. It's hard. It can be hard.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. Okay, so let's talk about team culture. So you've done a lot of collaborating in your experience between the leaders and nurses and staff. So how do you foster trust and communication without being biased, right? How do you foster that type of culture?
So personally, myself, in my staff, I like to meet everybody one-on-one. I like to hear what their struggles are, and I like to hear how I can help them. But then also asking the question, what is one thing that you would want me to know about you? You'd be amazed at what people say. It's quite eye-opening. I've had people come to me and say, well, I have to work 2 jobs. My wife is sick. I have a special needs child, right? And then you're adding that empathy and the compassion together. Yes, you still have to be the boss. They have to come to work. But if something's happening, you have a better understanding, how do I make this work? Single moms, perfect example, childcare issues. You have to get your child to daycare, and then you also have to get to work on time. That can be a challenge. So I talk to them. I talk a lot. And when I'm on the floor, I'm walking around, I'm seeing what's going on, and I'm also asking them, what's happening? Do you need help? And that's how I foster our teamwork. And as long as they see me asking and inquiring and taking an interest, it's like follow the leader. You will see your team start to walk around and be like, are you okay? What can we do to get through the day?
Oh, that's good. That's really, really good. What do you think most healthcare organizations get wrong about team culture, and what does getting it right actually look like? Would it be this, how can I help you, support, collaboration?
I think when it comes to organizations and their teamwork, right, they can be like, we're encouraged in teamwork, we're here for you, but are they really there? Yeah. Who do you bring to the table when you make decisions about clinical care? It's very rare that a floor nurse is sitting at that table saying, what are you talking about? That's impossible. Like, we can't do that. That's going to add 15 minutes to another task. We're already drowning with our tasks and medications. I think that's where we falter. Like, you make a policy change and a nurse never saw it, but yet you have to do more documentation, like more checks and balances, where nurses have good opinions along with everybody else in the healthcare team. However, if it's clinical and it affects the patient, you should really have nurses at the table, or whoever. It could be a supply chain, right? So who is your supply chain person that's sitting at the table saying, yes, this is doable? I think that's where we miss a lot. We ask all the leaders, all the directors, but you don't ask the front staff. How does this work for you?
That makes total sense. So what do you think the next generation of healthcare leaders will need to succeed?
So they are really going to have to be visionaries, right? Now we have AI coming into the picture. We have robotics. It scares me incredibly because I'm like, how is AI going to impact? Like, the patients are going to have all this information. They're going to be asking questions. But if we're AI and robotic engaged, then where is the empathy coming in? How does a leader manage up their teams to deal with robots and AI equipment? And what is the effect on the patient? Do they feel that compassion? Do they feel the same care? That's the question to really ask yourself. Like,
yeah,
if you hold a computer's hand, a robot, does it make you feel all warm and comfortable? I don't know. I've never held a robot's hand.
But well, it is interesting with AI because I was diagnosed with breast cancer last year, and I got my diagnosis through my chart. So it was nice. I got my results right away on a Friday afternoon, but I wasn't going to be able to talk to anybody until Monday. So what do you think I did? I dropped it into ChatGPT to explain it to me.
Ask. Yes. And I've always said that my chart is great. Unfortunately, you find out the worst before your doctor reads it. My dad, when he was diagnosed with cancer, he called me and he says, what does this say? And I read it and I was like, you have cancer. What has the doctor said? And he's like, oh, we just got the results. And I was like, yeah, like, you can imagine, Stephanie, like, you got it on my chart, you put it in ChatGPT, and then you have all these emotions. And nobody's there to say, hey, these are the statistics. This is what we do. Nobody was there. You had to process and grieve and kind of come back to the light by yourself.
Yeah, and I also misread something because there's a bunch of grades and numbers and whatnot, and I thought I was stage 3 when I was actually stage 2. But I didn't know that until maybe 2 weeks later when I actually talked to my oncologist. The nurse, I think she was a nurse navigator. I don't remember if she said anything, but it was interesting. I had the whole weekend to just process and then ask my questions once I got that phone call. Yeah. Exactly. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful with AI and automation. Maybe you should go to the doctor before it gets released to the patient.
Well, maybe we have to put restrictions on the machinery that you can't post that result until a doctor signs off on it. Whoever ordered it. Like, if you see a radiologist, the radiologist will sign off, but whoever ordered the test should be able to look at it, review it, and then contact you before the results are there.
Right. So it's crazy world, right? So you've been a nurse, you've been on the floor, you're now dealing with budgets and policies, you've built policies. So how do you personally stay grounded and inspired in healthcare when things are constantly changing as fast as they are?
So my daily activity is I'm very devout in my religion. So I do I walk the dog in the morning, and we listen to prayers and the gospel and the reading in the morning while I'm walking the dog. That is how I start my day. It's the only way that I feel at peace. And not only am I exercising, but I'm also clear in my mind for the day, because you just run all day long. You have to gather metrics. You have to be on meetings. There's no time to think and forget about eating and drinking, right? We eat on the run. We drink on the run. It's crazy, but that's really how I try to keep grounded. And then, head home to the husband, and we spend time together, and we're happy. We try to live our best day every day, because it could be our last day. It's horrible to say, but you just never know.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I read my scripture in the daily readings. I journal. I listen to podcasts just based on whatever Bible study I'm doing. And I find that when we have a connection like that, so I'm Catholic, right? There's many Christians in our country. There's many other religions, but just knowing that there's a higher power and that loves you, right? That loves you, that created you for a purpose. Now that you're in your role and you love what you do, you feel like you're doing what you were made to do.
I do. I have always believed, once I chose nursing as my career, that was my calling, that I was put in places to do the job that I was meant to do.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my role.
Yes, and you pray on it. I have my prayer jar. And even in the hospital, you don't have to be really like pushing your face about religion, but people will see I wear my bracelets, I wear my cross, my medallions, because I'm also a practicing Catholic. And they ask questions and I answer them back. And, I tell them, if you're having a bad day, you got to hand it over.
Yeah.
Give it to someone else to worry about.
Yeah. And when we make mistakes in our career, right? And that is huge, because we can make mistakes as leaders, as decision makers, as colleagues.
Yes.
And we have to give grace to ourselves, to our colleagues, or anybody we work with. And that can go a long way too with leadership, is just having empathy. There have been times that I've had to experience something to understand. So I'm a mom now, but when I was in my 20s, I was really annoyed when I'd be working with moms that weren't keeping up or had, different timetables than I did, whatever the case was. But now it's like, oh no, I totally get it, right? There's nobody else to go pick up the kid, or they're sick, or, but if we can practice being empathetic and understanding, patience, give charity, give grace to people, that's where, we really can show our devotion to our Lord, but at the same time provide really safe space for our colleagues.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I tell people all the time, it's okay to give yourself patience and grace, because you just never know what someone's going through. And a lot of people don't like to share what's happening outside of the four walls that they work in. Especially women, right? Because historically it's always been oh, you guys are too emotional. You need to have a better backbone. And it's not that at all. It's just that we're high performers, right? Women are high performers. We're taking care of a home, taking care of children, working, building our careers. It's not that we're emotional. It's just we're performing, and we try to do our best all the time. So if I make a mistake, I will be the first to admit to my mistake. I do not know everything, but it's okay. I'll learn from it. And that's kind of the way I lead. If you make a mistake, whether good or bad, we're going to fix it. We're going to figure it out. If it was a bad mistake, okay, we may have to review it a little bit more to get to the point where it doesn't happen again. But it's okay. It's okay. Not everything is perfect.
My first manager was like that, right out of undergrad degree. My first manager, I made a big mistake. And it honestly, it just we had to redo a process or policy. It was something like that. Paperwork. It was paperwork. But I felt so bad because it was going to delay a hire. And he just told me, he's like, look, it's a learning opportunity, right? Like, you now know. And to this day, I'm still very, very careful about what I say, right? Because I know by just talking and running my mouth, I could say too much, right? So we all learn.
Yes. And it kind of sounds weird where I'm like, oh, a bad decision because we take care of patients. But you have to look at it. Is the mistake because there wasn't a processing in place? Was it a mistake because they didn't know?
Right.
There's lots of reasons why we make errors. Not that we want to, but it happens. Yeah.
Things happen. We have to be understanding. So last question, any advice to our listeners about leadership or growing into a leadership role or healthcare?
Well, for leadership, I would say if you have an interest in leadership, that you should really pursue it. It's a really hard job, and there's not a lot of people that want to take on the responsibilities. But it's also what type of leadership roles do you want? Do you just want to be a charge nurse? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a program manager? Especially in healthcare, as a nurse, I love being a nurse because I can change my mind when I get burnt out. So if I'm inpatient, taking care of patients on a floor all week long, and 2 years from now, I just cannot do it, well, can I go to outpatient and be in the clinics where it's like just specialty visits? Or do I want to go to research and do research patients? It's the joy of nursing. I can change my mind and I can change it again. And if I want to change it 10 times, it's great. I still have a job.
I love that. You can change it 10 times. And it's true. There are so many opportunities in healthcare.
There are. Yeah. And in leadership, it's hard. It's very hard. However, if you have a passion, you just have to keep pushing ahead, right? I went with a startup company. They let me go after a year and a half, only because, changes in the company. I thought I was doing a great job. I did do a great job. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't what they wanted when they got what they needed from me. However, I didn't give up. I still love being in healthcare. I still love being a nurse, and I still love being a leader. And so my next job, back in leadership in the hospital, it's just really having a focus and continue to push forward. Because the moment that you let yourself down, it's kind of like, I can't do this. But we can. Women are strong, and we can do this, and we can push forward, no matter the walls and the obstacles that are put in front of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for your time today. I really hope that our listeners know a little bit more about nursing and about leadership in healthcare. Really thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Listeners, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Next Step Career Corner. I hope Wendy's story reminded you that leadership isn't just about big decisions. It's about resilience, relationships, and the willingness to keep showing up even when the challenges are real. If this conversation inspired you, challenged you, or gave you something to think about, I'd love for you to share it with another leader who needs it. And if you want more episodes like this, make sure you subscribe so you never miss what's coming out next. Until next time, remember, leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to go first, lean, and learn out loud and lead in a way that's real. See you in the next episode.